Mr. Atlas, Miguel.
What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
I haven't seen you guys in a while.
Yeah,
You haven't seen me in a while.
I've been trying to do this for such a long time. For all of you who don't know, if you have heard our ads, I don't have that music on in our episodes yet because I'm planning for like season 2. But he's the creator of that music that we have for the show. And in case you have that, if you haven't heard it yet, this is what it sounds like. So that's in our.
I was gonna start by.
I was waiting for the keyboards.
Yeah. So, what are we doing tonight? I mean, this is our anniversary episode.
Yep, and I actually gave it a pick. He picked a very good movie, actually.
Yeah, we wanted to do this episode with Miguel. This is our 1-year anniversary for the podcast. And we wanted to bring it up. So, like I always ask, what's your favorite movie? And you picked?
Ad Astra. Or AD Astra. I don't know. Some people name it AD Astra. I don't know why.
Ad Astra, just to piss them off.
It's just, okay, Ad Astra. It's Ad Astra.
So, yeah, I saw this movie, believe it or not, last night. It's in my list of movies to watch since 2019. The movie was released on September 2019. And
what was the budget for the movie?
Well, the movie, it was very close though. It cost $100 million to make.
Ouch.
But it only made 135.4 million.
Oof, that's a break even.
It made 34.
Well, it has Brad Pitt on it. Was that a pro bono job for him?
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if the 100 million was because they hired him.
Oh well, okay. He went
probably, yeah.
But he wound up on the budget. He doesn't get money from the profits. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. I'll talk to him later.
So in this movie, we are the astronaut. This is Roy McBride. He gets tasked with a mission to go across the entire solar system. If you think about it, it's like, whoa. Where he needs to discover, in part, what happened to his dad. Apparently, there was a mission that his dad was doing that is causing chaos, not only in Mars, but also on Earth.
Yeah. Was it like a radiation wave?
Something kind of like that. It was causing blackouts on Earth. It was causing havoc on Mars. And they were expecting that it was going to be doomed.
There was going to be like a big flare that was going to just screw everything up.
And everybody would die. And so they needed to do something or die trying. And apparently they had I don't know if they have an idea that there was something to do with the mission that his dad did.
Okay.
It was, I don't know. I mean, this is your favorite movie.
No, we did have his favorite.
My favorite movie that I haven't watched over a year.
Well,
but we did it already.
It does have an impression.
So we could call it the second favorite movie?
You could call it my second favorite movie, yeah.
So this movie, one thing that I have to give to this movie is they made things look real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at this movie, you're almost, you feel like you're looking at us in the near future. Granted, things like, the colony of Mars, it seems for us could be like, what would you say, like 100 years into our future?
That's about what Elon Musk predicted, yeah.
Yeah.
So
he says that we're gonna be in Mars fully colonized by 2050.
Exactly. So my point is this: some of the movies that we watched in the 80s and 90s predicted that we'll have like flying cars by 2025, right?
So I don't want to imagine what a traffic accident appliance is.
You need some good insurance.
But but the thing is, that's my point. Most sci-fi properties out there, and that's the whole point of sci-fi properties. They make it so fantastic, for the story, because that's what sci-fi is all about. And this one, although, is still fantastic because, just the fact that they have the colony in there fully fledged, and for us it's like 100 years. But when you look at it, it looks like how would imagine that would look like now if we have the capability of doing that. So they took real live ideas
that are in the works.
There are and most of the stuff is stuff that we're working towards right now to achieve, and they put it in a way that is, because very easy in a sci-fi movie you can make it look this fantastic. We have so many properties out there that already do this, and it's kind of refreshing to see a movie where you feel at home.
You get too confused about reality. Like,
that's another topic.
Yeah. It's a very grounded movie. Nothing is over the top. Yeah. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Like you said, you can envision that's where we're going to be in a few years. Yeah. It's not something that's like Star Wars over the top, which loves Star Wars, but it is over the top. It's a good grounded movie.
And it's like I said. It's sci-fi. It's supposed to be over the top, but it was kind of nice to find something like this. Is very refreshing. Mm-hmm. It's unique to do.
Yeah, it's just like you said. You're looking onto the future.
What? When did you see the movie?
The movie, I watched it with you the first time, actually.
The first?
Yeah, because I hadn't watched it before. I remember the other person that mentioned it before you was my friend Jose.
Mm-hmm.
We did Blade Runner with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentioned AD Astra. And then I told you I never watched it, so we watched it after.
What... I usually like to ask this question. I'm going to ask Miguel first. And what out of the movie? And I know you've seen it. It has been a while, but the question is still applies even long after you've seen this movie. There has to be either a scene or a concept from a movie that just grabbed you in a way that 5, 6, 10 years go about, down the line, and you still remember that one thing about this movie. Can you tell me if you remember what that one thing is?
Well, to be honest, certain details I don't really remember, like the whole solar flare thing. I didn't really pay attention to it. Like, even though the movie is a sci-fi movie and the whole space thing was cool, my focus watching the movie wasn't that it was a sci-fi movie. It was more of his psychological analysis throughout the movie. So what I remember the most when I watched it was him sitting down, analyzing himself psychologically.
So I think that's what caught you.
That's what caught me. Yeah, that's really what grasped me about the movie. It's like, wow, this guy's sitting down. He's mentally done. He's gone.
Oh yeah.
It's like, how is he that? But that's really what grabbed me, because for the last few years I've been on this whole self
actualization.
Yeah, self-actually, restructuring myself and thinking about things in a different way and going outside of my own box. So when I watched that movie a year ago, it was like, that's what grabbed me from the movie.
The funny thing that's actually the part that grabbed me too.
Yeah, and it's very unique how they do that. We kind of talked about the psyche in a character before on our episode for Benin.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's crazy, but this one over here really take that over the top.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy how, and I guess I understand a little how that is an important part, especially on the career for this astronaut and this particular world where, you need to be sane. You need to be out there to be able to, to do the tasks that you got to do. Not only that, but we talked about how on a space missions, for example, being able to cope with loneliness.
Yeah.
And be coping with a lot of things, like, for example, things that we normally take for granted, like open up your windows and look at the sun. going to the beach and walk in the sand.
Smell of the rain, feeling the grass.
Yeah, those things we take for granted. But when you're inside a spaceship, and that's, that's the we're not even talking about the people that are actually in the colony of Mars.
Mm-mm.
They can't ever see an ocean.
Well, they have the sun at least, right? And go to a pool.
Well, but the sun is very dim, so it's not even the same thing.
In Mars,
yeah,
the sun is dim.
Well, it's not that dim, but in comparison to what we get on the Earth.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely not the same thing.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the hottest temperature on Mars is minus 65.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
So, a nice cool breeze here in Florida equivalents to the hottest time on...
Nice cool breeze in Florida, minus 65.
No, I'm saying 60, about 65 Fahrenheit is the hottest, right?
No, minus 65. That's below zero.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
the coldest place on Earth, which is called, if I'm not mistaken, I actually researched this because I was like, what? Okay, do we have a temperature like that here? It's called Yakutsk. It's in Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the coldest it's ever been in there is minus 65. Then you got the Arctic, the Arctic Circle.
Isn't it like a small village like within a valley?
Yeah, but like it's snowing heavy and it's cold all the year. Like the hottest thing that they see is like 0 or like 5 degrees.
Jesus Christ.
When it's the hottest.
That's why Elon Musk wanted to nuke Mars. Man, you're losing the opportunities.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. You gotta get the soundboard going. No, but like what you were saying, like, yeah, people, these guys are astronauts. They're stuck in a spaceship for long periods of time. Now, that's a spaceship. That's a worst case scenario. That's close to being in a prison.
Yes.
So imagine people last year that were going through the whole bug virus. Yeah. That we were stuck in our houses and people were going insane.
Yeah.
And we still have windows and sunlight.
They're stuck in a capsule.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of crazy, but you have a point there. The only reason I think why we kind of kept some sort of mental healthness, some sort, because we still have a big increase of people looking into mental health nowadays, is the fact that we could in fact open a window and look at the sun. We can imagine those poor people in a spaceship that you open you see the sun as a star,
like a little dot
in the blackness. And now just think about what causes to the human brain mentally by opening, or not opening, but looking out the window and look at the vastness of space.
Oh, it makes you feel afraid, probably.
I mean, not even that. Even if you're on orbit, and you're looking down on Earth, okay, just looking at that blue planet in the middle of nothing.
No, I mean, you're looking at it from above. It just, when you're like, I would say when I see things like that, not that I've been in space, but when you
space?
See,
Club space in Miami Beach.
Oh yeah, that's a different space. There's not much space actually in that place.
You're right.
But what I'm saying is that probably you'd think about how small we are, really.
Yeah, and not only that, but like if you look at the edge, and you look at
how it glows,
the atmosphere. I can't remember which astronaut I can coin saying it looks like a thin piece of paper covering Earth.
Yeah.
And just by looking at that, it tells you how fragile we are. And it tells you something that it kind of hit home. It's like we are in a living spaceship.
Yeah.
Traveling through space.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean...
because even our galaxy is orbiting around a quasar, if I'm not mistaken.
So, I mean, just having that into perspective, I wanted to say that, to have it in perspective, once we're inside this spaceship, and that's why Disney calls it Spaceship Earth. That's perfect name for it. But once we're inside of it, you look around, and in proportion to us, everything is so big, so we don't feel that we're traveling this, tremendous speed through space. In
a very tight place.
Exactly, because of but we see the ocean, we see everything, and we grow up that way. It seems normal. So when you take us out of that equation into
a one-bedroom apartment, a long one-bedroom apartment, New York,
it has to be horrible on the psyche.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine their sexual urges. How did they resolve that there?
They never talk about that.
No.
Yeah, I've never heard an astronaut talk about that.
And I believe when they say they probably have not experimented. Whatever. There's a lot more important things, and I give it to them
for humanity.
But the thing is, this is a very real part of what it is to be human.
Yeah.
And this is why
it's part of socializing in a way, if you think about it.
We are this type of animal that requires companionship.
Mm-hmm. So mating, if you call it, like you'll see any other documentary out there. We're just an animal that mates like other animals. Different animals mate in different ways. Like condors mate like we would like to mate, or like the idealistic, which is monogamous. Yeah. We have different types of mating behaviors, really. But it's mating if you look at it from the biological perspective.
So, it makes me wonder, when are they going to, again, I get it. There's a lot more important things that we got to, figure out for space travel. But, I always wonder, when are they going to start that research? When are they going to, because it is important for the human psyche, for us. I mean, granted, we have that animalistic urge to, leave a mark, leave a mark on humanity, mm-hmm. leave our, so yeah, that's fine and dandy, but that's also part of our psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it kind of bothers me that it has stigma where, just talking about it, you're like, oh, this is taboo. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's an important part, and it needs to be researched. And I'm wondering when, because I can tell you anything, a lot of really cool discoveries might be, unveiled after they do that, when it comes to that and space travel, when it comes to that and, space in total, because things are completely different when it comes to space. When you add the space, everything changes because of the lack of gravity, because of the lack of pressure, because of lack of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wonder about that. And when I was watching this movie too, I mean, it looks like this movie is, would you say 100 years into our future? Or maybe a little more?
I would say less. Because think about it, it's the speed at which we, and you correct me if I'm wrong, what you think, the speed at what we are growing and advancing on technology is exponential. So it becomes faster and faster. Like what we didn't do in the last 200 years, we're doing it now in 50, 10, 20, less and less.
Yeah, it's like when people say about compound interest, it's like compound technology.
Yeah.
And it's, we brought up Elon Musk before we started the podcast, but it's pretty much what he's doing. He's privatizing it, so it makes it easier to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's got rockets that launch and land on their on their own now. It's like
putting chips in people's head.
Yeah, he's putting chips in people's head. It's like he's probably an alien, but when I
See, I'm a mess with this thing.
LA let this guy build holes under the streets, like.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the future holds for us with Elon Musk.
Jesus.
I think you're out of control.
Hey, you put me in command with this thing.
You gave him the control.
And I was not even touching it before.
I gave him the power.
Whoa.
So, yeah, this movie, and to going back to the movie, and what we started talking about, how when we were talking about how important it is for humans to open up a window and look at the sun, and that's why it was so important for him to have those, and I don't know how frequent they were, psych checks.
You could call them side checks. I think that they also.
I think in the movie it was once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week. Wow.
It was a little freaky.
That's rough, buddy.
It speaks to how he acts.
It's detrimental.
Because he's able to act in a way that you feel what is actually going on, although he's acting
composed.
Misdirection. He's acting very composed, but
he's a wreckage inside.
Yeah, and that was amazing, because you see this, and all of you who have, I don't know if you've seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, reach out to us on Discord and let me know what you think. But it was very freaky. You look at this guy and he's acting very composed, almost robotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very like stoic. Like he doesn't. He looks like he doesn't care about anything.
The one name that came to mind was Data. Lack of emotion.
Lack of emotion.
From Star Trek.
But that's the thing. Like, his body language gives him away. But Data, that doesn't exist. This guy is freaking dead inside. So that's the difference. Like, you can see that. I think it relates a lot to something that is in big debate in psychology. They call it emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And when he has to go and like listen to plants and trees in that room that was weird as hell, anybody will go nuts on that thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that whoever he was doing the psychological evaluation with, it was a robot talking to him, right?
He sounded like one.
It sounded like a robot.
They never really. I never got to see, where that. I'm assuming it was a robot. I think it might have been an AI.
Yeah, like an AI kind of voice, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing a psychological evaluation to a robot.
Yeah.
It's not even another person.
Yeah.
So how is this guy supposed to act?
and you know what? It was kind of freaky, because towards the end of the movie, when he's doing that let me call it final side check, you could tell he was completely a wreck. But when I thought, okay, he's going to fail this thing. And he started talking, and I was like, oh crap, he's composed. It's like, really? But little, surprise, surprise. The AI told him, you failed. And I was like, holy crap, he can tell?
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell because I'm looking.
Yeah.
But the AI probably is observing him too. Because we're in a future where, we already have technology that can do face recognition, and we have technologies that can spot a person on site.
Yeah.
So this AI probably is able to read him through body language and audio communication.
Yeah, you also got to think, if it's like 100 years into the future, then the AI systems are...
It's even measuring his hormone levels.
Yeah.
His heart rate also. He has to put this little thing on here, which I think this is where they get the biometrics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the the chemical makeup and heart rate, heartbeat stuff. I don't know. It was just kind of freaky, because you look at this guy. He's a mess, because you just looked at him a couple of minutes prior to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets into that, let's call it booth. And he's very composed. You're like, holy crap, this guy is mentally unstable. He was just a mess just a few minutes ago, and now he's like completely composed.
It's almost like he's between like being psychopathic.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Well, he did say in one of these scenes,
I thought that too,
that he learned how to compartmentalize. So it's almost as if he's taking emotions and put them in boxes.
Yep.
Mm.
And opening up when he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
But that can't work forever. And he's apparent from towards the end of this movie, as he gets closer to his dad, how he's losing more and more control.
Of course. He didn't know I mean, there's a lot that goes on through the movie, but first, his dad is celebrated as a hero
Yes.
of the mission that he went on. And then they find out something darker.
Well, when he was in Mars, he was approached by this person. I think she is maybe the leader, the president, or whatever on Mars. And, she was actually probing him for information. And he keeps on saying, that's classified, and
Above your pay grade.
yeah, above your pay grade. Yeah. But eventually she broke down and said, I think she showed him a video of how he killed
The crew?
And that's when she comes out and say that, your dad killed my parents because they were there.
And he's like, what the heck are you talking about?
Exactly. So it makes, you could tell how he kind of discovers that he was under a lie for the first time. And you can tell that he's kind of chewing that information up.
Yeah.
He's really like, whoa, is it, there's a little misbelief in there when he's listening to her.
Of course, there's going to be a skepticism. His whole life, he's heard his father is the Mark Kelly of our time.
And it makes you, another thing that I was wondering is like, he's so
Scott
disconnected. He's so disconnected. I mean, towards the beginning of the movie, when the other scientists approached him, that apparently was working with his dad for this mission. And he said, about your dad, your dad might be alive, right? Because I think it's been 30 years since this whole ordeal happened. I mean, he was 16 when I believe this, he finally last heard of his dad. And he asked him, it's like, he might be alive, right? Like and I can tell he's probing him psychologically, waiting for a reaction. And he says, I think he says something along the lines like, can I speak freely? My dad is dead. And, he's going to be dead. He's dead. So he's completely disconnected. Throughout this whole beginning of the movie, you can tell how he's completely disconnected at a unhealthy level to the point where it was affecting his relationship.
Yeah.
I believe towards the beginning.
Yeah, I was just about to get to that. Like, yeah, because he had issues with his wife or something at Earth, and it was
his wife was or girlfriend. I don't know. Was actually at the beginning of the movie, you could see how she's actually grabbing luggage and dropped keys on some sort of counter and walk out the door.
And I think
and look at him.
Yeah,
he's completely disconnected. He's like, he looked at her like, okay, like another day is going by.
But I mean, if you want to give it a standard description to what is that, it's called a social dysfunction, really, because we're social animals.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's completely disconnecting that part of his person, So he's detrimental what he's doing to himself, but he's becoming socially dysfunctional as he continues to put these feelings and emotions in a box, because then it's not normal anymore.
I wonder if...
Right?
Yeah.
I wonder if what he said towards the beginning makes any sense towards what... When he said that he felt his dad left him, like he was abandoned. And I always wonder if that was the catalyst, because he was 16 years old, where he started to develop these psychological problems.
Yeah.
But the issue is, how many people do we know that has happened to them? Where they're left with their mother or a father, where the other parent left, and they don't turn out psychologically damaged like that. So
the isolation part of it and the way of his day-to-day life, I think that plays a big role on that. right?
Yeah.
Because if not, I mean, there's other things that fill in for those empty spaces in our lives, one way or another.
I would really love to explore more of the backstory because there's definitely a lot the movie's not saying that causes him to be a complete disconnect. I mean, I was also thinking at one point that, you know, how his dad was, you know, he was a really great scientist overall, regardless of, you know, what he did was horrible. And of course, he didn't know that at the time. He was heralded as a hero to humanity. So I wonder if the reason why he selected the career he picked is kind of like his way to be accepted by his dad. You know how you have, you know, that need that someone that you love tells you, you know, you're doing, I'm proud of you, you know, you're doing something great. And we know this because at the end of the movie, it was expressed where, you know, but I wonder if that also has a bigger part into how he was forged psychologically. Because I mean, 16, you know, scientifically, your brain doesn't develop up to after the age of 25.
I got the answer for that, but I want to hear what you think about that first.
Well, I think it's definitely, and this is outside of the movie, but it's probably has to do with how somebody is raised. Because yeah, I mean, my father left when I was like 20 something. It's the last time I saw him. I haven't seen him since, but I've always had the love and care of my mother, my grandparents, my stepfather who stepped up, you know, and he you know, he raised me pretty much. So I never ended up with like crazy psychological.
You were not in a box every
I wasn't
weekend.
in a box, yeah. I mean, I'm probably in my head more than most people. Like, I'm always thinking in my head, but it's not to the point where it's like, oh, I'm going to compartmentalize this emotion.
But that's not
and put this.
That's not a detriment. That's actually a benefit, you know.
Yeah, it's like what you said before. You're self-actualizing yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the constant effort to make yourself better.
Yeah.
I actually,
well, he's got the opposite effect. He just wants to make himself worse.
Yeah.
I think he just wants to live outside of society. That's it.
But the messed up part is he's doing this thinking he's doing the best he can. He's being the better person, and he's actually damaging himself.
Well, if you remember also in the movie, he kind of emphasized he has to pass that test every time, because if not, he's not going to get to do the mission. And he wanted to be the one to do the mission.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, towards the end, the mission became blowing up the lab, or basically killing his dad. And I think that's one of the most surprising things to me is when he got into that ship. He broke into the ship, by the way. The crew tried to kill them. He was saying he's not hostile, which he wasn't trying to be, and.
Well, they got orders to actually eliminate him because he became an enemy of the state when he went on the mission, even though he was denied to.
Exactly. So the way that went out is like they kind of killed themselves.
Yeah.
First was that lady. When the acceleration came in, she hit the door and broke her face and, well, her head. The other guy got punched with a knife, and then the oxygen went out. He was in a spacesuit, so he had no issues. But the last one, I think, he suffocated. Although he tried to save him by putting oxygen on his face.
He was even trying to revive somebody. The last one.
Exactly. So,
but here, before we move on,
go ahead.
Here's my answer on what I think about that of he becoming an astronaut. I will say probably your generation and generations back, and probably the generation before me too. They grew up on a world where they wanted to fulfill their parents' dreams, where they were growing up saying, I want you to be a baseball player. I want you to be an NBA player. I want you to be a banker. And they would actually do that. Oh, I want you to be a doctor. So they will become doctors when they grow up. And we have still countries that are I would say it's a very conservative notion. But I mean, we still have countries where the kids are doctors because their parents want them to have a good job that's going to give them a good lifelong career.
Yeah.
And they do that even though they might have another hobbies or things that they love to do.
They make that a priority because they want to, again, They're looking for that approval
Mhm.
from that. Oh, I'm proud of you, of what you're doing with your life and what career you selected, and
So that's a big element on his decision why becoming an astronaut. And of course, I mean, he has this big legacy that is overshadowing on what he wants to take on to. I mean, he wants to become an astronaut, but his successor is a freaking legend. Like everybody celebrates and like the god of the heroes of space.
He had to step it up because he wants to make an imprint, and he's living in the shadows.
Exactly. And on top of that, I think also that he has this kind of social responsibility because everybody's looking at him, like his colleagues, since he went to the NASA. And I mean, again, what he's having to like fill up from is the top guy.
It's messed up everywhere he went. Yeah. It's kind of messed up everywhere he goes. Is everybody's like, oh,
Can I talk about my father again?
I know about your dad.
Yeah.
He was a legend, man. Oh my God, you're his son. That living under that kind of shadow has also implications.
Then he found out what the shadow was about.
But another thing that really intrigued me about the movie, outside of his just psychological analysis and stuff, I mean, that's what captured me about it the most. But it's also like, when you look at the movie, there are so many people before the movie came out that have been talking about the things that have been happening that, well, they portrayed in the movie, like the moon bases and stuff like that.
Yep.
Regardless if it's true or not,
it's happening already. We have the Artemis project.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, we know about that now, but how long has it been going on for that we don't know about it? So like you were saying earlier before, like, oh, these psychological analysis and stuff like that, or of people communicating in space or mating and all that stuff, like what they probably already know that. Yeah, we just don't know that because we're just here on Earth being normal, everyday assholes. but the government probably knows about these things already. They've already probably done extensive research on it.
Psychological research, for sure. I think so too. I mean, we had, how many years ago? 10 years ago, we have the first time that people had sex in space.
Yeah, and sex in space is ugly. It's not, and you see. Let me explain this. Because there's been like people trying to replicate it like into porn and stuff like that, and they romanticize it. But just think about it. There's no pressure. There's no gravity. How's that going to work?
It should work because you just said there's no pressure.
No, but
right.
But I envision like ropes and pulleys.
Yeah. You have to like some BDSM stuff going on.
To thrust, you have to. Whoa, that's what I said. It's ugly.
You're using the monkey.
But that's why that's why I said it's ugly, because it's very awkward.
It's got to be, because every time I see videos of astronauts in space, they're moving like really slow. Like it's like, even if they try to move somewhere, it's like here you could just cut wind, like in space you can't. I don't know if it's possible. I've never tried it. I've never been in space either. Yeah. But every time I see videos of astronauts, they're moving like really slow, even when they're going to grab something. So, I mean, mind me, but even if you're doing this,
that's exactly what I'm saying. It's very awkward, and it doesn't work the same way. And you can't. I mean, you make. I venture to guess you cannot even perform well as a man, because you can't do the movements that you have to move to in the way that you're used to. And it almost becomes, and again, I'm not an astronaut, but it feels like that would be a chore instead of something that you would do for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and the moment something becomes a chore,
it kills it.
So I don't know.
I mean, these guys are out there in space doing missions. They're not living out there, So it's
exactly
doing missions, not the missionary.
I think this.
You got to do like a mission sometimes.
But I think that you will really be thrusting your partner. You will be thrusting him towards you in the space. But it's gonna be awkward.
Hey, baby, why don't you put on that nice, sexy, tight spacesuit? The one that's on console B, yeah, that one, the one that looks really tight on you. Yeah, that's how I like it. Yeah, the red one, the red one.
The one that Barbarella uses.
Yeah, no, but yeah. I think we'll get to hear a lot more about it once space travel, like for example, going to Mars.
I think just Artemis.
Where you have to be inside a spaceship for a long period of time before you reach something. I think that's when we are going to start, like when we talk about colonizing is when we're going to start talking about sex in space.
Yeah, I mean,
because
it has to.
What is the whole purpose of colonizing a planet? And Mars, it begs the question too. Mars has a fraction of the gravity that we have on Earth, so it makes you wonder how's that going to be there too.
Or maybe if you think about it, we can go a little bit more Star Warsy on it. Maybe there's going to be the same dude 1,000 times in Mars. Like all the clones. Same guy with different ages all over again.
Yeah, we could just make anti-gravity devices.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's a very good thing. If it comes, I think there's some research, but it's really not going anywhere.
There is. My friend Fulgencio, the one that came here, he even gave me like a real life idea of what it will be, but like it takes too much resources to do.
Yeah.
But like he told me, like you could do an anti-gravity like this.
I think that the problem that's going on, I think that's this particle called graviton, if I believe. It is understanding how that works. And I think that's where I actually saw a documentary where scientists were trying to explain like anti-gravity. Because I mean, the applications for that are enormous. What is the problem that we have right now when we're launching into space is the fact that we have to carry with us so much freaking fuel, and that thing is heavy.
Yep.
So it's kind of counterproductive because you're trying to outcome the weight so you can escape. You have to escape velocity and go into space.
And the fuel that takes you there is the one that is the heaviest.
Is the biggest problem is the fuel. So imagine if we can, and that's why NASA and other scientists are investigating why this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one is getting anywhere at this point, but you imagine having a ship that can only use anti-gravity instead of fuel.
Yeah.
We could have a smaller ship.
But I'll tell you something before you move on from that. I think that the solution, we do have it. We just don't want to play around with it, which is nuclear power.
If you read into Bob Lazar, he's a scientist who, I mean, again, this is all conspiracy theory stuff, but Bob Lazar studied in Area 51.
Yeah.
He was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was talking about.
We did an episode on him.
Yeah, so he studied that chemical something. I forgot the name of the chemical, but he's probably the one that's came the closest to explaining it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so
none of us are.
But he explains it in a way where it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Like,
I'm a master of bullshit, though.
Yeah. Because apparently he was like in there, studying spaceships and stuff like that. So it's like, well, I mean, if anybody's gonna do it, this is the guy. I mean, at least he's out in the public.
No, and the funny thing is that they actually make him look like he was stupid when he came out. And now with the years, you're finding out, oh shit, this guy was not talking.
Yeah, even the old lab that he worked in, they burned all the papers and everything that he was never there. He never went to university. It's like, well, how the fuck? I mean, the guys like studied.
It's like, guys, you burned too much stuff.
Yeah, they buried everything. That tight spacesuit on Capsule B with the high heels. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see the comments on the chat.
A hotel light?
You gotta hold on tight. I don't know what that was referring to, but maybe I got it late. But
you gotta hold on tight to her when she's wearing the red outfit in Capsule B. That's what it is.
There you go. But yeah, this going back to the movie, this is something that eventually we are going to have to talk about. We're going to have to deal with, especially when We're talking about colonizing Mars.
I think you also got to think about this too, because when you're out in space, it's not like here on Earth. Like we have the sun every day. You know the sun's going to be there. It's going to, unless something catastrophic happens, but we know we're going to have the sun, and that's our source of vitamin D, which is what gives us serotonin, dopamine, all the good feeling chemicals.
Yeah.
When you're out in space and you don't have that,
you get radiation actually.
Yeah, but like when you're out in space and you don't have that sunlight, would you even want to have like sexual intercourse with somebody? Like, would you even have the motivation to do it?
Well, just think about too the fact that inside that spaceship is very sterile because it has to be. Very. It reminds me of this office where you have the green lights, and just very, very Matrix-like, boring. The act is supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be fun, and now you're taking it to this unromantic, scene. Yeah. There's a lot of things that play against it.
I have a solution for it. They're gonna create that machine where they put the astronauts that do G-force inside of the spaceship. So they're gonna need a big space van.
They are talking about that, and we talked about that in our episode on 2001 Space Odyssey. That is actually in Project Gateway. I don't know if you guys have heard. Look it up. I think it was called Project Gateway on Google. Basically, what it is, there's
going to be a Hilton hotel there, right?
Oh, there you go.
With basketball courts.
There's
basketball.
This group,
Space Jam's real life.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, I got to show you. But they haven't gone there yet. Basically, they're holed up right now, aside from financing, which I think they have big names out there. Is they're waiting right now for? Is it the Falcon Heavy? What is the biggest ship?
Yeah, the Falcon X1.
I think it is the Falcon. I don't know. I've heard something Falcon.
Yeah, it's a big one from SpaceX because it's the only one that can carry the materials. Because the materials that need to carry to space are going to be tremendously huge. Basically, what it is they're going to do this spoke in space, where spaceships are going to be docking in the center, and it's going to be connected to the outer rings through tubes, where people can go in, and this whole space station would be rotating, so it would be creating gravity. So I think Hilton is going to have a hotel. There's going to be restaurants. I think there's going to be a section where the rich can buy apartments and have there.
There's going to be big spaces with only like botanic and trees and stuff like that up there.
Recycled air, recycled water. They have a whole system, and they have a video out there on YouTube. They are explaining everything, and there's actually even updates after what's going on. But that cannot happen, and it's kind of messed up because they have everything laid out on what they need to do, but they can't carry the equipment with the current technology.
Yeah, so I think that the current one can carry a maximum of 20,000 kilograms? But the Falcon's going to do like 120.
Yeah.
But are they planning on sending it up in just one shot, or are they going to make it modular so they can build it in space?
It's completely modular, which is really cool. And as a matter of fact, every section will have a escape pod equivalent to the amount of people that can be in each module. So if something happens, the capsule it sealed, and people just go into their specific spaceship, which is pertaining to that one capsule.
Well, probably it's overestimated because you're never going to have the same amount of people in every single room.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, but
like the ship is going that. Well, dude, you got to go across the whole ring.
But it's kind of crazy because when you look at this, it's filled with escape pods.
Yeah.
And I think the guy was talking about how they were taking lessons from Titanic. You know how in Titanic they did not have enough lifeboats, and that's the reason why most of the stuff, most of the tragedy happened is because they didn't have enough for all the amount of people that were there.
Come on, I thought that the only tragedy there was Rose and Nick.
Yeah, they're the only two that matter.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the other 20,000 people that died. Screw them.
But the biggest debate of the Titanic is he fit in that door, right? He could have gone on and not freeze.
Yeah.
He could have,
Okay.
He could have.
We agree.
They could have both been alive, but
Yeah, but Rose is selfish.
So
She's like,
freeze.
this is my door.
Yeah. Territorial.
I'm
bitch.
going to live. I don't need you. I have a rich husband.
But you know, it's kind of funny. No, not really funny, but it's kind of weird to look at that design. And they have the actual mock-up and 3D rendering on that video, where you see every section. It's almost looks like it's filled with space. They look like tiny shuttles, but it's filled with them. When you go and look at the spoke all around in the outside, it's just tons and tons of them.
Yeah, it's what I told you. They probably overestimate a lot of them because that way, I mean, maybe half of them are not going to get out if there's an evacuation need for the whole thing, but everybody's going to be saved.
It makes you wonder if we could see that in our lifetime. I mean, not necessarily travel there, because you imagine when they open for the first time, that would probably be really expensive to travel there. But it makes you wonder if we could see that in our lifetime. I mean, they're waiting for the Falcon Heavy to start construction. How long will that take? And that's step one. They were showing the second stage, or let's call it the second spaceport. They call it spaceport, and it looks kind of like the one from Space Odyssey 2001. It's kind of freaky. You know, and talk about how science imitating art.
Yeah.
But it's almost the same thing that Elon Musk did with the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
The Cybertruck looks like, if you ever played 007, the original, like the Nintendo 64 007, there's a car in it that looks just like the Cybertruck. It's exactly the Cybertruck.
What about Blade Runner? What about the ones on Alter Carbon? They kind of all look the same. With that, slanted front. You know, the only difference is I kind of like the one on Alter Carbon because they fly. Well, Blade Runner also flies. So
yeah, I mean, it was funny. We were watching the upload.
Yes.
The Tesla is the Model 3. They have it in there as a classic car.
It's a classic car.
It was hilarious. It's like, what? And I mean, it was pretty because like the bikes drive itself.
Yeah,
to guy, like an Uber.
The guy
you can rent the bike.
He got the bike. He got into this house and he just got off. The bike didn't fall off. It just continued riding down the hill. It looks like it was San Francisco, maybe.
Yeah.
And just went on its way.
Creepy as fuck, man. You look at that bike along, like you could put like little shaky eyes on it too.
I like to. I know this is late, but I like to welcome Karina Patricio to the stream. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Now, let me ask you guys, because I asked you, but you didn't tell me. Don't you think that the solution to the weight problem with the fuel really will be that we use solely nuclear power?
You know, in the documentary that I saw, they have a nuclear power propelled system, but it's not viable.
It's what I'm saying. We have the solution. We just don't know how to harness it.
I think it would be cleaner, because just think about this for a minute. And this is something that the scientist that was talking on that video that I was watching, kind of put it into perspective. I was like, holy crap. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. You're using an explosive as a propulsion method.
Yeah.
What's the difference between that explosive reaction that we're already using with combustible fuel?
I know what it is.
It's the same thing.
It's a consequence of the trials.
Yeah, but
and a mistake with nuclear power.
Yeah,
we don't have that much space to play around with that shit.
That's Chernobyl all over again.
Yeah. No, I think it will be worse than Chernobyl for the spaceship.
It's actually, if you think about the fact that they're both about the same, but look at consequences of what happens with fuel versus what happens with nuclear, you might just want to use fuel.
And I mean, look at the expense. Like you can see it, the solution being put to practice in there, because most ships are actually fueled by what do they call it?
Thank you, Karina. She's mentioning on the stream that we are awesome. Great video. Thank you.
Thank you.
So No, I see. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the Expanse. Great show, by the way.
It has a solution. I mean, they can spend weeks and weeks in a ship, and I mean, they pick up, and it measures the fuel too. But like that's what I'm saying. We just haven't harnessed that technology.
It would be kind of cool because if you think about one good aspect of nuclear, is the fact that it decays so slow.
Yeah.
So you can have a source of fuel last a great amount of time. So think about the implications on that when it comes to interstellar travel. You know, if you want to travel to Andromeda, you know what I mean? I mean, granted, it's not going to be feasible because we can't, on that type of propulsion system, we can't travel past the speed of light. So that means that would be over 100 years travel. Yeah. So that's not even feasible.
So you need to colonize the ship while you go in there.
Exactly.
Or do like a long time sleep.
We actually have a better solution if you think about it. The Alcubierre drive, which they're still researching. You know, I see a lot of potentials in there. And I say potential because they're still investigating. The idea came to this doctor. His last name is Alcubierre. That's why they call him the Alcubierre drive. I believe he was a Star Trek fan. And guess what that engine is called? The warp drive.
The warp drive.
But not necessarily to pay homage to Star Trek. No, because if you think about it, the whole technology works by warping space around you. So you're technically not going 1 mile per hour. You're standing still.
You're just bending the space. And
you're just folding space-time into itself.
And you're folding space, so you're making space work for you. And that, if you think about it, if you put it into Star Trek perspectives, you understand why these people are sitting down on their seats on the spaceship without any seatbelts. And they're traveling tremendous speeds because they are technically not moving.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's because of it? Because aren't they going fast still?
They're going fast, but they're not moving. They're warping space around them.
That's true. We have spoken about this. The reason that we don't do this is because we don't want to do something that will create a catastrophe.
Well,
so we need to be able to go far away from the solar system before we play around with that stuff.
Here's the current problem. You know, the first time he wrote the equation, and of course, I'm just oversimplifying the crap out of it. So, you know, for all of you scientists out there, please forgive me because I'm going to get all this wrong. But I'm just oversimplifying this thing. The original equation required as a power source the energy of the entire galaxy.
Jesus.
That equals impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the revision, I don't know if it was NASA. I think there was a team of people that were working that equation because it has potential. You know, if you look at how they explain it, if you Google it, you'll probably find explanation videos all over the place. It makes sense. You just have to work the equation to try to figure out a way
to create that energy.
No, not to create.
To harness
to use less energy, right? So I think second go at it, and I might be completely wrong here, but I think it was scientists at NASA or maybe some other people that work closely with NASA because NASA is currently investigating this right now as we speak. The amount of energy necessary today to make this work will be the equivalent to planet Jupiter. So
it's not too bad.
So we're going from the entire galaxy to Jupiter,
which is 5 times the Earth.
It's a lot
more
doable.
It's a lot more doable.
A lot more doable, but it's still.
But I don't think we're going to be able to do that until we actually learn how to mine space. Because right now, because have you ever seen that chart where it says that we're in different civilizations? Like there's a category 0, which is like, and I think there's 5, which is when you can use Dyson spheres and you manipulate the power of the sun.
We're not even
we're not even 0.5.
We're not even 0.5.
We are cavemen.
It's crazy, you know. If we,
we're talking about that red spacesuit, Capsule B. That's how cavemanish we are. Our mind is still there.
It's crazy. I mean, you think
by the hair
about
with my
that.
club.
Yeah, yeah. It's insane when you put it in perspective that we're not even halfway through level 1 civilization.
Yeah, we're here trying to get to space.
And the crazy thing is, if you look at it in a graph form, say for example, here is level 0, and here's level 1, and you graph it and how technology and human behavior and all this stuff goes, we are probably going like this.
We're probably going backwards.
At some points we go backwards.
Yeah, because we're busier throughout history killing each other.
Well, not necessarily, but
we killed Nikola Tesla.
The whole idea was the whole idea is to learn how to take advantage of resources.
That's true.
What are we doing right now?
And that's another thing that I say.
Look at the problem we have with plastics.
Yeah. I like to say, everybody, we are like a cancer to the earth because we take and we don't replace. That's how we've been doing through the extent of most of our history. I would say the 98% of it since mankind beginning. We will always take, destroy, and not replace. Mm-hmm. Just now we're starting to take consciousness about it. And now you have the earth getting hot and like irreversible damage that we're creating. And I mean, we don't even know the deepest places of our oceans, and we're trying to find out about things outside still.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems is how we build our system, our society, is all based in money.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying money is bad. I'm just saying that it becomes a priority over environment.
Over whatever the mission is.
It becomes a priority over morals and integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, granted, you have companies out there that are doing their thing, but then you have companies out there that don't give a shit.
Yeah. And most of them don't.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they're running a business, not a charity. That's what they say.
Exactly. And I understand that point. I mean, if you think about it, just the way that we build it, if we all go and create a business, right? The business will not stay afloat if we don't control our spending and how much we have to kind of manage that budget. Otherwise, the business just goes in bankrupt.
Yeah, and more importantly, I mean, you got to stay true to the mission statement of the company or corporation or organization.
So, I mean, I'm just going, I'm taking a step up. It's like you and me create a company right now. Just the way that this build, we have to look at money first. Mm-hmm. Granted, we might be a little bit more conscious because we're thinking about the environment, we think about all this stuff, and it might be a little harder for us because we are going to make decisions in the business that might, they have that into effect. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, how can we keep it profitable so the business doesn't go down?
I think that it's just...
But I think it'd be better to specify what kind of businesses that is. Because if we're talking about like gas and fuel or fuel and oil, it's like...
It's going to die.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, and I wonder if that's going to have a negative effect on the environment. But what I was going to say is that in reality, you just have to take a human element to it as a corporation instead of looking at it differently. And what would humans do? We adapt. We change as things go changing with us. So, I mean, if you think about it, other animals, they're still living like they lived in the beginning of time. But we have gone evolving and adapting socially and in our biological ways too, if you think about it.
Yeah. And we kind of, going back to the movie, can we see that? I mean, granted, we can see our expansion in this movie on Mars. I don't think the movie explored that portion of it.
It kind of touches on it, actually, with the psychological tests. Even let you think about it, because, I mean, what's the guideline in which he's being judged when he's being tested weekly?
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, maybe the guideline is obsolete. Maybe he's actually doing the way that it's going to allow you to go nuts. on space.
Mhm.
So you at least can have control over your own faculties as you go on this mission that, I mean, it takes a big emotional toll on him, but if he's able to actually shut it down, then he's not going to be penalized for it.
Yeah, but it takes more of an emotional toll on him because it's connected to his father.
Yes.
Because nobody else in the movie is the way that he is.
No, exactly. No, and I mean, we look at psychopathic, this is a little bit Hannibal Lecter, but like we look at psychopathic behavior as it's totally bad and wrong.
Mhm.
And if you look at it as a tool and not as a sickness, I mean, if the person is a psychopath, that's one thing. But if the person actually understands psychopathic behavior and is able to harness it, so they have their emotions, but they are able to control it completely.
Well, I think in this particular case is slightly different because we see him break down.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the end, when he
But
finally
he chooses when to break down. He breaks down alone in a place. It's not like he's in front of the testing or somebody.
No, he broke down in front of his dad.
Exactly.
He broke down in front of his dad. And I think that was a crucial point. And actually, I think that helped him become a better person because after he finally had that, let's call it closure, he was able to go when he went back to Earth. We can see him meeting his wife again or girlfriend. It wasn't really specified in the movie. But you can tell the difference in him when he was drinking coffee in that shop, waiting for wife/girlfriend. He looks different. And that's when I was looking at that, I was thinking, you know, the effect of water under pressure on the or pressure cooker, you know, you can bottle things up for so long. And I know based on, you know, up to this point, when you're watching the entire movie, that he's trying to get it under control because he feels like if he doesn't get it under control, he's going to fail and, you know, whatever. That point came and he had no control. He blew up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That shows that he's still a human.
But that blowing up is the equivalent to releasing pressure that he was causing himself, that he needed to let go. And after that pivotal point, I think that's when he became a better person. And you can see the change in him after that point. So, you know.
Which means that wasn't his behavior. That's not how he actually is.
Exactly.
Because the thing with the psychopathic people is that they have no remorse for anybody else.
Exactly.
They'll take advantage of you. Doesn't matter what it is.
They don't have that capacity.
They don't have they don't have the empathy or emotional. They just don't emotion.
I actually saw a documentary about psychopaths, and they show like brain charts. When they show you like it just doesn't show. It's completely gone on their brain.
Yeah, the emotional aspect is gone. Like they don't cry. They don't. It's just
they're incapable. It's just they lack it. They can.
It's almost like being narcissistic, where you can learn behaviors and you can learn how other people react around you. Because obviously, to a certain point, you're going to be like, I'm kind of weird because I'm, you know, but you can learn the behaviors, but you're not really that.
Exactly. You educate yourself about your surroundings or what you're experiencing, and I think that's important part of that what he's doing, because when he breaks down, he's showing you he's not psychopathic. He broke down, so he's adapting to that behavior for his own good, because if not, he's gonna be a real mess.
And he's
not gonna be in control.
I like to see that we see that from the beginning too, because even when he's in control, something feels odd.
Of course. I mean, he's going against his nature.
You can tell. I mean, granted, he did say he's compartmentalizing, you know, but it is very obvious that he is forcing himself into control. And we can't do that.
This movie that we did an episode on with Chris Bell. Oh my God. I remember the Goncalves, but I remember the name. Equilibrium. It touches a lot about that. They live in a society where everybody has to take a shot in the morning and at night of a drug that is going to kill your emotions.
I got to watch that.
Oh, that movie is like, and I mean, Everything looks so Nazi and so like.
Watch
great.
the movie and then listen to our episode and let's talk.
That sounds good.
You're gonna like that movie, bro. And I mean, Gonkatas.
I like dark movies, man. It's just
they have like a karate.
The Gonkatas.
It's freaking crazy, man.
I gotta watch it.
The Gonkatas are crazy.
But you seen you seen there a lot of that, you know how it doesn't matter what you do, you will not eliminate that unless you are a psychopath.
The thing is, like I was talking about sex being part of us, emotions are part of us. You can't cut something out because you don't like it. It's part of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be part of us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but that's the thing. I don't know if I made it clear. It's what he's doing. He's not taking it out. He's taking control over it, so it doesn't actually ruin the journey.
Don't get me wrong. In some occasions, that came in handy.
Yeah. Even in your decision making, it affects it.
He kept in control, especially on that moment where the pilot on that first mission got killed by the monkeys. That was a weird.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that was a weird scene.
That was a weird scene. He got killed by monkey. It was kind of creepy because he's calling the captain out. They went into this. I think there was a mayday, and he didn't want them to stop, but they are contracted to stop. And I understand that when you're in space, there's not that many ships around.
No.
So if you're the only one around, you are going to help. Because what if that was you? You want someone around to come rescue you.
Mm-hmm.
So that I understand how that would be a command, but I think it takes it to an ethical level as a human being. You know, especially since we haven't colonized everything in space. So they stopped at this ship to help out, and they separated. So McBride was going this way, and he's calling the captain. And there was this scene where the view to him was blocked by this floating, looks like a box, and then you see the captain, and he's calling him. And you see him flinching. And you're like, what the hell is going on? It's like it's not responding. And then you see a monkey's head come up. And now you know, oh crap, something went wrong. And apparently he was being eaten by this monkey.
Yep. But, and you know, like chimpanzees, for example, they actually, one time or the other, they actually hunt themselves for territory. They eat other chimpanzees.
Yeah.
Because they're herbivores.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really odd behavior. It's just a monkey that is out of his habitat. And, I mean, he's mentally distressed because they do suffer from that too. But I think that the way that they would have fixed that scene is when he's arriving and he sees the monkey, they put...
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, Rob, because we were talking about intimacy in space and, you know, obviously... sex. We're talking about sex, people. So, you know, intimacy and sex, and it is a primal urge that we all go through. But I want to know, what is your thought about people who are asexual? Like, there are some people that just don't experience that connection with sex.
You know, they will definitely be in their habitat because a space is that kind of habitat is devoid of everything, including the even if you have the want and the need, it just, again, I'm just speculating here. I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space, but
and you're definitely not asexual.
Yeah, but it will definitely be in their habitat because that's what, you know. Even here on Earth, you know, there's a big difference of having sex on let's say a hotel room or a love hotel or in your house than in a hospital bed or an operating table. The spaceship, to me, the equivalent is an operating table. That's the unsexiest room you can pick to have sex on.
Look at those keys.
It depends on the woman. Wear that red spacesuit in Capsule B. No, but I wanted to know what your thought was on that, because at the same time, I don't think that they would be able to do it, because it's been scientifically proven that people who are asexual tend to be more emotional than most. It's emotional trauma. Most of it is emotional trauma. But then when you have somebody who's like the guy from Astra, I forgot his name. What's his name? I forgot his name.
McBride.
McBride, yeah,
McBride.
Let's call him by the name of the character. He's psychopathic, but to an extent that helps him become a leader.
But he still has emotion, like what I'm saying. Like he broke down, for example.
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if he's asexual too, because there's a couple of scenes when he's sitting down, where he's laying down with a wife/girlfriend. I don't notice any interest.
No, and it looked like things were not alright between them too.
Even when they were in the few scenes that they show where they're happy,
It's kind of implied
it there wasn't that. I didn't feel that
closeness, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It's not like not sexual urge, but there wasn't like that
Affection.
that affectionate, that sexual affection between them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that would be the maybe their habitat.
Well, I will say that at least it would not be as much of a strain when they are on solitude, which is what entails really a mission of such.
I'm wondering about what you said too. If that would be something good for them, because you said they're very emotional. So it makes you wonder too, because you need to have total control when you're there. Because remember, space, everything and anything about space wants to kill you.
Well, let me rephrase that. Not that they're emotional, but it's due to emotional trauma.
Oh, okay.
But if you're getting a psychological evaluation every week, it's like, is that psychological trauma going to help you to take command when you have to, or do you want somebody who's more stoic?
Yeah,
and can just tell you, no, this is this and this is that without feeling any remorse.
No, and you don't know how far will they go before actually shit goes south.
Yeah,
because they actually broke themselves on the way. Because the other thing is, this is all completely in a psychological matter, experimental.
Yes,
because we don't even know ourselves as people, as me or you. We go knowing ourselves and getting to learn new things about ourselves as we grow older. I mean, that's what we say, that the life is a whole university of itself.
Yeah.
We learn how to die. So it's difficult to really put your finger on it if you think about it.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Because there's not a prescribed way that we can say, this is how human works, the human mind.
Yeah.
I think that quantum physics is going to uncover a lot of things about what we think is spirituality. And it's going to also complete a lot of blank spaces.
Quantum physics will help us even modeled in computer modeling, stuff that is impossible to do nowadays.
Because we don't have the resources. It will take, 50 years with the most advanced computer, which is a monster that holds a whole building.
Yeah.
And speaking of quantum physics, this doctor, what's his name? I forgot. Eric Weinstein. He actually released a book on the relativity of everything. So he's working on a calculation that can solve pretty much the universe.
That's gonna be interesting, actually.
So I don't know if it's already out, but I want to look into it. Eric Weinstein, he's a what do you call his people? Well, he's a math professor, but he's also a mathematician.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's top of the world, one of the best. And he's working on this book, and I heard about this last year, so I don't know if the book's already out or if he's still working on it, but I think it's already out. But I got to check that out. So Eric Weinstein, the relativity of everything.
I'm gonna check that out.
We're gonna check that out because we were talking the other day about the big dispute, which is the string theory and the relativity theory.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some people are like, because string theory has been around for a while, but it doesn't really explain everything.
It doesn't. He mocks it. He makes fun of it.
Exactly.
He's like, you can't use your string theory you can't just bring random things into the equation to make it work that don't exist.
Yeah, X is not an answer.
Yeah.
But you talk to someone that has studied that all their life and they have an argument. So there's a big, how can I put it? Romeo and Juliet type of thing.
Yeah.
Where, they're fighting each other for the theories. I'm again, I don't know how many times I can say I'm not a scientist. I'm not into string theory. It doesn't do it for me. So I belong to the other cool cats.
The quantum theory. Well, he actually he explains it very, very well. He's got his own podcast on YouTube. It's called The Portal.
Okay.
And he talks about this stuff, and he breaks it down to a level where most normal humans can understand what the hell he's talking about, because it's hard to visualize and explain it if you don't visualize it,
Yeah.
But he's able to explain it.
He does what Neil deGrasse Tyson does too.
Yeah, he does.
He dumbifies it for our guys.
He dumbifies it.
I made it. I need
dumbifies
it.
it. Yeah.
I need it.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, the
Actually, what are your thoughts on Neil deGrasse Tyson?
On Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
I love that guy. I would love to meet him.
Neil,
I actually love listening to his podcast, Space Talk.
Yeah.
Great, man.
I read his books.
Neil, if you're listening, we want you on the show.
You pick the movie, man.
You pick the movie.
Maybe we'll give him that one special that we have that he actually liked, and he provoked a lot of things on him that we have in our blacklist that we want to hold it down. Interstellar.
Oh yeah, Interstellar.
We're gonna be talking about multiple universes and stuff for like 4 hours. No, it's like this. No, it's like that.
That's going to be a long.
So
podcast.
what you guys should do, because I have followed this guy who does podcasts on YouTube. What his dream is to do a podcast with The Rock. So he's got a picture of The Rock in his kitchen wall. You guys should put a picture of Neil deGrasse Tyson right here. Just
so.
with a purple space tie.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can buy those ties and we wear in all our episodes.
Not in all. Well, I'm not gonna have a suit.
Well, you don't have to wear a suit. Just put the tie on top of that. Red and the purple tie.
And after we're like 5 whiskey glasses down the road, maybe I'm gonna have it tied in here sideways.
I forgot I had whiskey.
Oh man, how could you forget that?
Yeah.
Whiskey and beer.
Yummy.
So yeah, if you can tell, this movie has brought up so many topics for us. It ranges from analyzing of the human behavior to how that relates to space travel and sci-fi topics. I really wonder what you guys will think after watching this movie, if you agree with some of the topics that we discussed here. Reach out to us in Discord, and we'll have this conversation real life, and see what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree on, and let's continue this conversation.
Absolutely.
So
now let me tell you something. I think that one thing that was kind of ironic is that by the chain of events, in a way, he became his father.
For a brief moment.
I mean, think about it. It's unfortunately causality that he killed that whole crew because he was targeted as a threat. So that was not his fault. It was just mere survival that he killed everybody. But he did kill a whole crew. Even though it was not his crew, he went there and everybody was killed because they were trying to attack him, and he was the strongest. He had the strongest survive. Nature of our biology.
You have a point there.
And then he went there and he actually saved humanity.
However, differently, because his father did it on purpose.
That's why I say in a way.
Yeah, if I remember, his father killed the crew because they didn't want to complete the mission.
Yeah.
And he wanted to, right?
Yeah, he was like, we're not going back. So
he actually said, I'm going to complete the mission. I have the bomb. So he had the intention of killing his father. That's some crazy crap there.
No, and I mean, he was not wanting to do it at the end of it. He actually wanted to take him out and go with him, but his father kind of helped him out with that.
By the way, I have to interrupt you there. Karina says, I'm ready to make an appearance. I'll bring vegan empanadas.
Nice. I would love to see that.
But now that she said that, she's going to be very happy because we're eating vegan pizza.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Don't
vegan
be jelly.
Pizza.
Don't be jelly.
Don't be
jelly.
Okay. Karina says, let me read it. My favorite observation is how being in space can affect your mental health and how important it is to Be outside. Feel the wind on your face. Feel the warm sand on your feet when you're walking down the beach. What do you guys think?
Very true.
It's very true, but like if we get to create something like an arc, which it's in science fiction, even in Expanse, that space, you can use that big arc.
Look what happened at the beginning, the very first episode, the captain of that ship. He almost killed himself.
And he was walking on dirt that he had on his room with his bare feet to feel something close to Earth. And I mean, belters, which are born in space for generations, like they don't understand what rain smells like, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you take it to Earth, they're gonna just die in minutes because they're gonna be pressurized by the oxygen levels and the G-force in the air.
The pressure and the gravity.
And it lets me thinking, like I think that probably if you think about it, what we don't adapt is like in a retrospective way going back. But once we go to space, we could really live on till the end of our lifespan on space without really having health complications if we eliminate everything that becomes a threat, like space radiation and things like that. You could live a long life on it.
There's one thing. I mean, there's multiple things, but there's one thing, like in space, because you are lacking everything, including pressure and gravity. If we don't figure out a way to create some sort of artificial gravity, the biggest problem that I can see is bone mass reduction.
Yes. But I think that we are going to take over the gravity eventually too.
If we can come up with some sort of like the Gateway project, where we have a ship similar or the same to the one we see on Space Odyssey 2001, where the living quarters are a rotating platform that creates gravity as it travels through space. We need, and that's the reason why. And the guy came in, the director or the owner of the Project Gateway came up and said, "This is something that needs to be done because of experiments like what happened to Kelly, astronaut Kelly."
Yeah, well, Mark Kelly's his brother stayed here. They're twins, if I'm not mistaken. And Scott Kelly stayed there for 67 days.
Yeah, I think it was a year.
Yeah,
it was 365.
And I mean, it was not even one day after he arrived. He started having some very bad health complications, like he was getting swollen. He was getting very bad migraines that he not even see light. But I think it's a matter of that. Like if we find a way to recreate sunlight, and I know that like vitamin D, we're probably gonna find a compound that's gonna recreate that in our system. So
there's already vitamins you can take, but that's one of the minor things that would eventually become a big problem if we don't manage it when it comes to space travel. But there's a slew of things that we have to kind of. I think the major thing we have to think about, I guess for the beginning, would be the biggest problem is the gravity issue.
Yeah,
and once we have gravity, I mean, even now would be a ritual thing where we can go in and have ritual space travel once we can discover that, because that becomes one big, huge health factor that could cause a problem for us humans.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
Yeah, I want to say that I think traveling to space and being out there and figuring it out and how we would live out there, to me, that's an interesting topic, because I don't think anybody's been able to do it for such a prolonged time. It's hard to survive out there. You have to do things that on Earth you should still do, but it's not required, like working out your muscles because you lose that game. But like you said, with fixing gravity, that you could solve that problem. It doesn't really matter. But I think that with the Earth, we have we're born here. It's Mother Earth. We're so connected to it, in not just in a spiritual sense, but just in the way that we've been here our whole lives. We came from bacteria and became this, and some people would call it God, some people would call it Buddha, whatever it is. But in a spiritual sense, it's hard to disconnect us from home. This is our home,
We're linked. I mean, if you think about it, we're linked to the sun, to vitamin C. Vitamin D. Our bodies are designed, our heart, our all internal organs are designed around the pressure.
Yeah, no, this whole vessel is conditioned
the gravity
to this atmosphere.
Exactly.
And this the whole Earth.
Some of the things you can take with you, but some of the things, like gravity, for example, you can't.
And those empanadas, probably.
Those empanadas, you were.
Yeah.
She's coming with me.
Yeah.
But I actually just researched it because I wanted to know, because they have to exercise like by obligation every day.
Yes.
It's 2 hours.
Yes.
For long periods, and still it's not gonna prevent you for getting stroke with some bad things when you come back after a long extended time. So but again, I think that that's not something impossible. We are eventually gonna get to there. I think that we're gonna do that long before we discover how to warp space.
Yeah.
Because I think that before we learn how to warp space, we're going to have to learn a way to travel faster without harming ourselves with the G-forces.
Well, if you think about it too, warping space, you still need to figure out the gravity issue.
Well, we need to figure out the contrary, the anti-gravity.
And that's why
while we're creating that force.
That's why anti-gravity is so important to discover. Because if we got that technology, we wouldn't need the weight of fuel on the ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but my point is, even if we had discovered warp drive first, we still have to solve the problem of gravity.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think that the solution to that is what do they call it? The proton collider?
Well, that's one of the tools they're using to investigate this.
Which scares me, because if something goes wrong there, we're going to create a black hole in a quarter size. It's going to suck up the whole Earth real quick. It's going to be like, what, a couple of seconds, and it's going to be like, not nice.
Yeah, but I think that like the anti-gravity mechanism or engine machinery, whatever the hell it is, or I don't know what crystal, whatever the hell they figure out how to use it with, I think the gravity issue would be fixed. Well, the warping space issue would be fixed with the anti-gravity. Because you're going to need gravity to fold space.
Yeah, no, and I mean, the only anti-gravity, like the one that I'm telling you, my friend kind of like sketch it up in the air for me. It's not really anti-gravity. It's just like the solution that they have on the Expanse for gravity. Instead of, because they don't have gravity, everybody use metallic suits with magnets. So you just click with your heels, and then you have a magnetic shoe, so you can walk around all the platforms. What he was telling me is like using a suit, and you have like giant bobines that cover a long range of space. But I mean, we're talking about something that is bigger than a baseball.
And that's the problem with artificial gravity, because if you think about, you can go on Google and research this. There's tons of videos out there. The smaller the diameter of the circle that rotates in space, the more problems to the human. Like, for example, you would have a tendency of topple over head first if it's really small. Versus something big.
Because you cannot switch.
Well, when you walk forward,
when
the pressure itself, the inertia, the gravity that is caused will actually topple you over first. But if you have something big that has a bigger diameter, as the bigger it gets, the less that becomes a problem.
So girth matters.
Girth matters.
But I think, I mean, I'm still like wondering, like that's gonna be very, very tough to get through.
Yeah.
Because you're talking to an organic matter here to actually counter the effects of gravity.
Yeah.
But I mean, this has been an episode. I think that this is a good pick, because we wanted to do an episode on it. And we probably just, like we do, we just get sidetracked and we do something else.
Well, that's the whole idea. If you guys are a fan of our show, you know this is what we do. We talk about the topics within the movie, not necessarily the movie itself. So if you're one of those, we thank you for coming out, watching us, listening to us, and we really appreciate you.
And thank you for coming, and thank you for the
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for the music.
Whenever you guys need a song.
Awesome.
Where can our followers actually get your material?
You could find me on IG, because I don't use Facebook. Well, I have it, but I don't use it. But you go on IG, type in @the_Atlas_music, and you guys can follow me there and check out some music, some stuff I got coming up.
So you only use IG?
I only use IG. I have Facebook. It's there, but I don't. I don't check it.
We just want to make sure whatever platform they are, but we know you fancy.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, you guys could follow me on Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff, but the link's on my IG. So
Spotify.
Awesome.
I'm gonna actually share his Spotify.
Yeah, and it's going to be on the show notes, the Instagram. So we'll put everything in the show notes so you can reach out. But we thank you, and if you liked this show, please share it and reach out to us in Discord, and then let's continue this conversation there.
We don't sleep.
And for all of you, this is the music, and thank you for coming to Science Fiction Remnant.
Have a good one.